As we've mentioned many times on this show, styling counts for a whole lot in the auto industry. Build a great car that doesn't look that good and it'll probably go underappreciated.
Is this new Acura TL going to get the respect that it deserves looking like this? Well, only time will tell. Unfortunately for Acura, they've developed a design architecture that's very unique for all of their vehicles, but I think some people might pass on it, especially with this TL.
The front shield design with upward angles on the corners of the car is mirrored on the back design. I don't know, it isn't attractive. And recently we had the new Maxima on the show and that car looked great in comparison to this.
There are two trim levels. The TL sold in front-wheel drive, and for our purposes today, we'll focus on the TL Super Handling all-wheel drive version, which is the more expensive model. The SH all-wheel drive version starts at just over $46,000. This model is bigger than the outgoing version with 18-inch wheels and a very sporty pattern. The stance of this new TL is very aggressive, but the finer styling points definitely overpower the athletic core.
As we mentioned, this is based on the Accord, but because it's an Acura, it gets a fancier interior. One thing they haven't changed, though, is the overly complex center stack. The biggest problem is the cluttered center console. Now, we recently had the Infiniti G37 on the show, and that was a perfect example of how to do a clean center dash. The TL has all the electronic goodies you would expect in this class of car as standard equipment or as part of the navigation package. But come on, Acura, I shouldn't need an engineering degree to use this thing.
I agree with Zach on the clutter. There's a lot of buttons up here. I use the navigation system a lot and it's just a little bit overwhelming. However, that being said, the interior is very well finished. The seats are comfortable and you've got a really kind of a sporty feel when you're sitting up here.
So far, the TL is not scoring very well on the outside styling, mixed reviews on the inside, but there is no question that this new TL is so much better on the open road than the old model. Now, I did mention that we would focus on this super handling all-wheel drive, but I think we should talk about the base TL for a second as a base of reference. That car gets a 3.5-liter V6 with 280 horsepower. That's sizable, but the super handling all-wheel drive trim pumps up the displacement to 3.7 liters and the power to 305 horsepower with 273 pound-feet of torque. Oh, this 3.7-liter V6 is brilliant. It really is. The power and the acceleration is spectacular. Now you get a 5-speed automatic, you leave it in drive, it gives a little bit more pedestrian drive. You put it into sport, it wakes the car up nicely, and you can shift behind the steering wheel with the paddle shifters. With the all-wheel drive, it feels so planted and stable, and I love the big fat steering wheel. Acura needed to move to an all-wheel drive option because the torque steer on the older TL was unbearable, especially on wet roads. I'd put this car up against cars costing tens of thousands more. It's that good. Now, for those of you who watch driving television regularly, you know that I comment on Honda's vehicles are more driver's cars. And then you get the Acura version of those, and it's even more of a driver's car. This vehicle really is for somebody who likes to have some fun. The engine is marvelous. Now, first of all, Honda makes some of the best engines on the planet. This 3.7 is dynamite. You get the all-wheel drive, which I do recommend, by the way, because my biggest complaint about the old TL was it had so much torque steer. The car was trying to power and steer the wheels at the same time. You don't have that with the all-wheel drive. And all of that wrapped together makes a beautiful package, and it's a shame because it's ugly.
What Acura means by SH all-wheel drive is that the system isn't just for traction. The system actually figures out exactly how much power is needed to go to each wheel, so you get wonderful handling characteristics, especially when you're taking corners. The extra power goes to the outboard wheels, so the car actually gets pushed through the corner, and it works really well. As Zach mentioned, this really is a driver's car, but it also doubles as a luxury car when needed. Even on uneven roads, the ride is crisp but never jarring, and the interior is quiet. The number of electronic toys helps to keep the level of sophistication high, so it's not all about sportiness. This vehicle has a very solid feel to it, and the handling and power are very intoxicating and a bit addictive. The steering has a slightly heavy feel to it, but personally I don't like the thicker steering wheel. What I really love about driving the TL is that you get the best of two worlds. On one hand, you get a vehicle that's large, smooth, and very luxurious to drive. But on the other hand, when you need it to be aggressive and sporty, the transition is just seamless.
Well, I think Lacey and I can both agree that this is a great handling car, but will it get the respect that it deserves because of its kind of awkward styling? What do you think?
Well, you know what, Zach, I'll tell you about that in just a second. But first of all, what I like about this car, it's got a very comfortable ride. The seats really kind of coddle you. And the backup camera is very detailed. In fact, our camera guy said it was the best that they've seen. Now, on the downside, I don't like the thick steering wheel, and I really wish that the back row of seats would have folded down. The ski pass-through just isn't enough if you want to go out shopping and put a lot of things back there. Zach?
I'm surprised you didn't put styling in your dislikes. Are you going to throw that in there too?
Well, I know how you feel about it,
All right,
so
I'll touch on it. Here we go. With the likes, first of all, engine, especially with the upgrade with the super handling all-wheel drive version, that 3.7 liter engine, beautiful. Honda makes great engines, and this one's fantastic. The all-wheel drive system works as advertised. It handles beautifully. This car feels so planted on the road, and I like the thick steering wheel because it feels solid in your hands. It's got a very sporty feel, and when you look at it for other cars in the marketplace that have this kind of power and this kind of handling, this car is cheaper. We're talking about those German imports. On the downside, I gotta say it's styling. I don't like the look of this car coming or going. Just me. I don't know, maybe you will like it, but I really don't think it's gonna sell as well as the previous model. And the inside is clunky. The same comments we had about the Accord center stack being too complex carry into this TL. The question is, again, do you think this great handling car will be passed over because of its looks? What do you think?
Well, you know, Zach, I don't feel as strongly about the styling as you do. I don't love it, but it's a great car to drive, and I think if you're looking for a car that has the handling and the engine like this, I think a lot of people will be able to get over the overall styling.
And try it out.
For complete specs, go to our website at drivingtelevision.com.